lads. Welcome back to another episode of Liverpool Latest. I'm your host, Matt, and I apologize for taking so long to get back to you guys with the new episode. I have been very busy, but thankfully I am back here, so I would appreciate it if you leave a like, comment your thoughts down below. Most importantly, subscribe and share the show with your fellow Liverpool fans so that we can continue to grow the community here on the channel. I guess we'll get right into it. The Spurs draw. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have won that game. Not only did we more or less dominate the possession, we had more passes, we had better accuracy with our passes. Hell, we had more shots on goal than Tottenham did. The only difference is they had more shots on target than us out of the 7 out of the 12 that they had. So, I'm at a loss at this point with this team. They made what place is Tottenham in right now? A 16th place team look more competent in 90 plus minutes than they have looked in the majority of the season. And only Liverpool can get that honor. That was a pitiful display. I mean, the game was fine up to that point, but here's the thing, man. And I knew that this was going to be a problem after the first couple of times. Richarlison. Every opportunity Tottenham had to give him the ball, they took. And every time he came very close to scoring, whether it would be like just a barely missed shot or defended from Alisson or God knows what, okay? Somehow, some way, Tottenham were able to get the ball to Richarlison, so much so that when he finally scored in that 90th minute, it came as a shock to absolutely nobody. Because I knew it was going to happen. What I don't understand is why aren't they marking him in these situations? Why aren't they trying to defend him more? If he's clearly getting to the net more often, then we are more comfortable than allowing that to happen. But that is a loss for me. What makes me upset is one of my coworkers in my big boy job, my full-time job, he's a Tottenham fan. First thing I said to him before I clocked out because we were switching shifts, first thing I said to him, I said, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And fuck you for Sunday, by the way. So, I was pissed, man. I was so angry. I just don't understand how a team can make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And the worst part about all of it, and I will quote Arne Slot here, or at least paraphrase some of the things he said, is that we don't help ourselves. I wonder why. Is the team constantly underperforming? Yes. But at the same time, it's also the manager's responsibility to adapt to what's going on the field. Clearly, Arne Slot has been failing to adapt this entire season. And at this point, I don't know what it's going to take for him to be eventually sacked. These last couple of matches have been rough. And honestly, you can make an argument for long before the new year even turned. But the fact that it has taken this long for Liverpool to make a solid decision on whether or not Arne Slot should be a part of this football club is shocking to me. At this rate, there is no love. There is no vibes. There is no positivity to be had at the Liverpool fandom. We're all angry. We're all miserable. And we're all waiting for the next kick in the balls, which will be coming well, I'm recording this the day before, but later today against Gala, which I'll get to. So we have to ask ourselves, what is it going to take for Liverpool to make the final decision on Arne Slot? I think the worst part about all of it is that we have a sporting director who clearly is stubborn in his own right and doesn't want to admit that he's wrong. But it seems as though there was a rumor today that sparked that Richard Hughes is once again being linked to a move to Al Hilal, which is in the Saudi leagues. Now, apparently, this is not something that's new, but it seems like it's popped up multiple times. Somehow I have missed it. This is news to me. But I will be, frankly, honest with you. If Arne Slot leaves, which hopefully will be soon, Richard Hughes should shortly follow. And it's funny to me how, I think it was not too long ago, around January-ish, where I think we won one match of the year, the first match of the year, and all of a sudden they put out this round table jerking off, for lack of better terms, Arne Slot and what a great job he's done for the club and so on and so forth. And Richard Hughes was obviously at the forefront of that. But I blame him just as much because clearly hiring Slot was part of his decision, or at least the decision fell on him as well as some other higher-ups. And clearly it was not a good move. Which is funny because he's only been a part of the club since 2024, as long as Arne Slot has been a part of the club. So we have to ask ourselves, what's it going to take to get rid of him, who clearly has not made as much of an impact as we have liked to see? We can sign hundreds of millions of dollars worth of players, but at the end of the day, what are the higher-ups doing to allow the team that spent that much money to succeed? Now, some of us might be asking, how much responsibility does Hughes actually have? And sometimes it could be often misunderstood, but Hughes himself has clarified that he focuses on team tactics, team selection, performances, which all equal Slot's responsibility, or at least that is Slot's responsibility, is the team aspect. His role revolves around squad building and recruitment, which can go from players to, I guess, coaches. And it's funny because Hughes essentially identifies the profiles that we are looking for in players, and Slot approves based on how they fit his system. So clearly, there is a disconnect somewhere in that. Is it Slot's inability to manage a team, to create reasonable tactics, or is it Hughes' inability to properly recruit players based on the needs of the team? So, I am personally of the opinion that if Arne Slot leaves, Richard Hughes should shortly follow. Clearly, he is not cut out for his role on this team, and it's only been evident as far as the season goes. And what would losing Hughes mean for the team is essentially a lot. It seems like if it would be a big deal because he's been essentially the central part of Liverpool's long-term rebuild as far as finding players to put on the team. He's worked very closely with Slot on the squad identity, which, let's be honest, the team has no fucking identity. That's the problem. And of course, losing him would certainly disrupt transfer continuity. So any transfers I have talked about, potential or past, all have gone through Richard Hughes in some way, shape, and form, and the ability to lose Hughes affects the finishing of those transfers, those signings. The worst part about this is I can go on and on about it and how much I hate office and general manager-esque roles in sports, because clearly this is not the first time I am dealing with such a problem. I can say the same thing for the New York Rangers with Chris Drury. I can say the same thing for the New York Giants. I can say the same thing for I don't even know what. The Giants and the Rangers are definitely the top two in addition to Liverpool. Thankfully, some of my other teams perform relatively well enough thanks to some competent GM or president decisions. So my problem is that this sounds like more of external interest more than an actual exit, which means if he does stay and Slot leaves, we are probably due for more or less the same problems over the course of however long Hughes chooses to be part of the team. But that does not mean that he should not be under scrutiny. He should be in as much scrutiny as Arne Slot has been, because he is just as much the problem as Slot is. Whatever Slot is doing on the field clearly is not working, but whatever the office is doing is clearly affecting what's going on the field. And that is where I have a problem. And that is the disconnect that I focus on for sure. Speaking of potential transfers through Richard Hughes, we have two major rumors that have been sparked as of recently, and that is Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace, who Liverpool are interested in because he fits a very specific gap in Arne Slot's current system, such as elite tempo control, progressive passing and low blocks, and of course defensive awareness. Certainly better than the current midfield has. So that price would come for a hefty £70 million, or in this case, 93 million in US dollars. A lot of money. Too much money, if you ask me, especially for the uncertainty of the future of the team at this point in time. The problem with this idea of signing Wharton, though, is that he has a very long contract until 2029. So clearly, that price tag is hefty for a reason, because Crystal Palace do not want to lose him. They've already lost Mark Gahey, so they're already in a bit of a rough spot with that. And of course, there are interests from rivals, because why wouldn't there be in Chelsea? But the verdict is, on paper, it seems like it makes a lot of sense, and it would be a pretty good statement signing, but it's not necessarily a depth addition to the team. And again, just because he fits the system right now doesn't mean that they're going to pursue going through with this transfer or attempt to transfer in the summer, because we don't even know if Arne Slot is going to have a job at this point. So that could completely be washed away due to the fact that Arne Slot could be sacked by the end of the season, which it would be too many games too late, if you ask me, but that's a different story for a different time. Lewis Hall from Newcastle is also somebody who is Liverpool are interested in, who also has the same price for about £70 million or 93 million US dollars. He's being linked to Liverpool because he could be seen as a long-term successor to Andy Robertson, which I think is stupid, because I think Kerkez is in fact the long-term successor that we are looking for. So I think if anything, it would be a backup for Kerkez as opposed to Robertson. I think the fact that people are focusing on the idea of Robertson staying as long as he is and trying to find a true replacement for him, I think Kerkez has done a pretty solid job since the beginning of the season. He's done as well as he could, given the issues that he's dealt with early on and how he's progressed since then. He's become a very, in my opinion, solid player at left back. Everybody has their problems, and it seems like Kerkez he's had his problems on and off too since getting better. But to me, he is our most realistic successor to Robertson. So if you ask me, Lewis Hall would be playing as a second to him, but that, or they can play interchangeably. I'm not really sure, but I don't necessarily agree with that point that I have here in my notes. He's also an elite technical profile, a midfielder turned fullback, and he definitely fits most modern inverted possession heavy systems. So the big issue, as I've said, is that Kirkes is already signed. We've already have a potential successor. So there would be no point in signing him unless he's willing to play second, which paying $70 million for a player to be second at left back would be a bit of an insane choice to make, because why would we spend all that money in the first place to just have him play second, or if Kirkes, God forbid, got hurt? It also would mean that Kirkes isn't fully trusted if he is signed. Or it would be a part of a major tactical shift that would be happening to the team once again. And, of course, Newcastle, they don't need to sell, and that would be ridiculous on their part, too. So, what this is currently saying about Liverpool is that the midfield still isn't necessarily as complete as we like it to be. We have some good pieces in place, but clearly there is a lot of uncertainty in the midfield that is preventing us from properly going all in, and clearly it's losing us games because the midfield has been somewhat of the problem. We're also having dedicated midfield players play at, fullback positions that they don't necessarily excel as much in, like Szoboszlai. So, and that also comes down to the fact that we have no right backs or dedicated right backs outside of Frimpong. So, it's going to be a very questionable process for some of these players. I think Wharton might be the most realistic of the two. He is, in fact, the strongest possibility. I think Hall is very unlikely due to the fact of the whole Kirkes deal and what that would mean to Kirkes if they don't trust him enough. But Wharton's probably the most logical of the two names I've mentioned. Last but certainly not least, it's time to go all or nothing. It's time to put up or shut up. It's time to take it out and drop it on the table, if you catch my drift. It's put up or shut up time for Liverpool as they face Galatasaray. And that is where I am incredibly worried, because Gala already has a 1-0 aggregate over us. They played pretty solid, or at least we allowed them to play better than what they typically are. The problem is Liverpool are basically going to play the exact same way they played versus Gala the first match, and going to play the exact same way they played Tottenham in the match after that. So we could more or less expect Liverpool to lose this match based on aggregate alone, or being completely clean-sheeted or shut out in the process. The worst part about all of this is that this match is taking place in Anfield. It's taking place on home turf. So imagine the disgruntlement of every Liverpool fan that paid good, hard-earned money to watch their favorite football team play, and they lose. They've already been booed out of Anfield a handful of times this season, most recently Tottenham. We may very well see a fucking riot at the end of today's match if they lose this. Now, what can we expect from a tactical overview, you might ask? Clearly the same system that we've been doing, which has not worked for the most part. There's really not much I could say that is going to give you a positive spin on what Liverpool could be doing. From a tactical standpoint, from a lineup standpoint, it seems like no matter what combination of players we put on the field, it's just not good enough. And whether it's because the players are not playing to their full potential, or they're downplaying their competition to make Arne Slot look bad, we have no idea. There could be a multitude of different reasons. or the team just isn't a team, which is probably my biggest expectation, is that the team is a collection of individuals who don't play as a team, or at least not like they used to anyway. So the fact that we have to be very logical of being vulnerable to counterattacks and struggles versus compact discipline blocks or low blocks, and most importantly, set piece defending, because we have had trouble with that all season. It's going to be a very, keeping an eye on those weaknesses, that could very well lose us the game. If there's any strengths at all that we have going into this match, of course, the Anfield atmosphere, which has been reduced to nothing more than crickets over the course of the season thanks to Arne Slot Ball, as well as individual quality. Clearly, there are players who are not living up to their individual quality. And most importantly, we certainly need a very high shot volume, because putting pressure on the keeper is what's going to eventually get us to score. The problem is we have to get to that point if we get past all the defenders that are in our way. Gala, on the other hand, could just play the same way that they've played the last 2 times that we faced them. They don't have to do anything different. They could very well win with a 1-0 aggregate lead and nobody scores in that match. And if they do score, being Gala, that would pretty much sum up the whole "we're screwed" thing. So there's really no positive spin I can put on this. I wish I can tell you that I am excited for this match. I am not. Thankfully, I have now access to Champions League matches to watch in the first place, but if I did, I would probably be on the verge of wanting to rip my eyes out, like I have the several times I have watched this team play on the pitch. So, when I ask ChatGPT, because that's how I help composite my notes, I asked them, what's the prediction for this match? And they say, which is hilarious, 2-0 Liverpool. And they win by the aggregate, 2-1. That's hilarious. I don't see that happening one bit. I'd be lucky if we score 1 goal. I'd be happy if we even do that. But we'll just have to see, my friends. Thank you for watching Liverpool Latest today. I'm sure you will be sure that I will be back in the next episode, giving you all of my thoughts on that match. I hope we win, but I highly doubt it. In the meantime, please be sure to like the video or the podcast and rate it wherever you can on whatever platform you choose to indulge in this content on. Leave a comment if the platform allows you to. And most importantly, subscribe, follow, share the program so that it helps grow. Because when you join the Liverpool Latest family, you, my friend, will never walk alone. See you guys after the match.